What if the root of most chronic
You have
diseases
different looking,
wasn't
you have
genetic
different looking
or
glasses.
aging,
Huh?
but the food you eat every single day? Today's episode covers keto, carbs, big food, JFK Jr., RFK Jr., and could be the solution to today's health problems. And so we're going to dive into it right after this. Welcome, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast Health Shots podcast, restoring vitality to you and the planet. I'm your host, Scott Patton. Joining us, as usual, health coach Martin Patella. Hey, Martin, how are you doing today?
Full of vim, vinegar, piss and vinegar.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. We got a full
Yeah.
we got a full show for you today. So make sure that you like, subscribe, and share this on your social medias, because I've discovered that YouTube really likes it when that happens. We feel this information is very important. We need to get it out to you, and we need to get it from you out into the world. We cannot do it alone. No man is an island.
Yes,
And those of you that
we really need. I'm sorry, Scott, to interrupt. We do really need the help.
Yes. And George, greetings. Thank you very much. And good. Yeah. I think Martin's a Martian too, but he realized.
I actually call myself Martian on a good day.
So there is some big news, Martin, that you noticed right when we went live. I put on these glasses. These are new glasses. And here's the thing. I have, where did I put them? My regular glasses, okay? And they're really good for seeing far away and for reading. But the computer screen is basically an arm's length away, and I'm looking at it like this, which just does not make for a very good show. So I went to my optometrist and I said, please, I want it so that I can see this far, right?
Arm's length.
Not this far and not like way down there far. So they did it. And then the first time I got the glasses, this lens was the original lens, which had no anything in it, right? Just glass. I said, it didn't work. And they were trying to convince me like, no, I said, no, I cannot see out of this. And then it went back, it came back, and I said, incorrecto. And it said,
God.
I just got it before I left Colombia to be here. So Kevin also says hi, and George says hi, Kevin. All right, so let's dive into this. There's a health crisis in America. We spend $4.5 trillion and we get poor outcomes, and worst in the G8, G20, G50. Why is this happening? We have Big Pharma, Big Food, and they are feeding into a medical system. So let's talk a little bit about chronic illness. Why is it?
Let me rant about taxation for 1 minute, please.
Okay.
Goes something like this. We take subsidies from our taxpayers' money, and the Congress puts it into agriculture, and they subsidize them to grow corn, wheat, soy, and a couple of other things. They call it strategic reserves. And they're strategic because they can be stored for multiple years. The worst of it is the corn and wheat subsidies. Just stupid. Anyway, so you put money from my pocket into the government, they give it to the farmers. The farmers grow it, then they take money out of my pocket and give it to people who don't have enough money and call it stamps, food stamps, or SNP, or whatever the heck it's called. And so these people now are buying with tax-supported money, tax-supported product that make them unwell. And then, because they are income assisted, they qualify for Medicare and Medicaid even. And further, tax-supported money is now treating the health problem that was created with the tax-supported food stamp that was created with a tax-supported corn. Okay? Absolute mayhem.
Yeah. And when you look at raising cattle, raising pigs, those sort of things, and they want to fat them up, they feed them extra corn and carbs. So now we wonder why we have,
Because
50%
corn's
of the United
affordable.
States are obese, right? So many people are obese.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So the next thing we want to talk about, so there's a health crisis. Hopefully somebody's going to do something about it. It's caused by the system. So it's a systemic issue, right? It's the result of the system. And when you think about it, like I like to differentiate between the small farmer and the giant agricultural conglomerates that are buying up everything. And generally speaking, if you go to the farmer's market and you see the farmer there, you ask him how he grows his beets and his carrots and that sort of thing. Um, it's a big difference from when you go to these massive farm factories. Really is what it is. And we have to get back to the answer, Martin, in my opinion, is growing your own food. There's no reason why most people can't grow their own food in their backyards if they're living in a house with a backyard, right? Which a lot of people are. Put some chickens in.
I remember looking at a house in Pasadena, California, and it was a regular suburban house in Pasadena, and they turned it into a field. It was a half-acre property, and they had front lawn, backyard. They had goats, chickens. They grew potatoes and all kinds of vegetables. Like you wouldn't believe it. They were taking 3 crops a year off of that property.
Yeah.
They had their own eggs. They had their own goat milk. Unbelievable.
Yeah, true self-sufficiency is not depending on the government for food or the grocery store for food. And to be able to grow it, can it, get your own eggs. There's nothing like getting your own eggs. It's unbelievable. All right. So if chronic illness is mostly caused by diet, why do doctors never ask, what are you eating?
Because they are not educated about it. Because 7 years of their education is spent memorizing physiology and Merck's drug manual. They need to know that if this symptom, diagnose, and after diagnosis, prescribe. That's all they know. They don't know prevent. They don't know nourishment. I think the totality of doctors' education about nutrition is 2 lectures.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to talk about real food. We're going to talk about junk food. And before we jump into that, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just announced that all food dyes are banned. I might not have that 100% correct.
No, you don't have it right, Scott. No, what they celebrated, and it should be celebrated, is that they're saying all things that are already banned in Europe or Canada, they are now banning in the United States. So that the same companies like Kellogg, Nabisco, and whatever, that already sell the products in Europe and in Canada free of these toxic, they call them petrochemical-based food dyes, are now going to switch to the Euro food, essentially.
So is that an improvement?
Good. But very small amount of pain to the food companies, and they have a year and a half to get it implemented.
Okay. I just saw the headline, banned all dyes.
Okay. Petrochemical dyes. You can still use carrots or beets or blueberries to color your stuff.
Well, the red dye was supposed to be really bad.
Oh, it's horrendously bad. It's carcinogenic. It's also involved in causing ADD, ADHD, autism, that sort of thing. Not fun.
Okay. So how would you define real food versus junk food?
Well,
so while you're thinking about it, I'll tell you my definition, which is Anything
Oh yeah, try me.
inside the grocery store that is not on the outside aisles is and although some stuff on the outside aisles is still junk food, but everything inside is junk food. It's super processed.
I would say anything that's in the last 20 feet before you reach the checkout is guaranteed 100% high margin crap.
Yeah.
The
Rapid
impulse
consumable.
chocolate bars.
Yeah.
That's the
rapid
chocolate
consumable.
bar and chewing gum and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Because you'll have
If
it
it gets
eaten
an
before you
end,
leave the store.
yeah, if it gets an end display, it's probably junk because it has to be high margin to get an end display because it's a moneymaker.
Right. So junk food, can it
To
supply?
define junk food.
I think we have a little bit of a lag going on
I don't
here.
know. It's just a bad word. We have healthy food and we have unhealthy food. We have food that's too much carbohydrate. How would I define it? If it's toxic, if it's grown with the help of fertilizers and especially herbicides and pesticides, it's going to be a challenge in the body to get nourished by it.
So if they're spraying Roundup on it and then they process it, there's probably still Roundup in it.
Yes. Yep. Guaranteed. Cannot get it out. It's inside the, it's soluble. It's yeah. There's some really funny delay today with the Wi-Fi or whatever is going on. I don't know if your signal is getting to the broadcast quickly, but I keep desynchronizing.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Okay, let's talk about ketogenic diets and intermittent fasting. So how does keto work?
Two fashionable discoveries, which are based on eat like the blood type that you are. I mean, everybody with blood type O is the original hunter body makeup, and they do better on foods that are old rather than new. So that came up with paleo. Paleo essentially meant eat the food that has not been pushed through the industrialization of food. Eat like a caveman. Then there is this thing that we discovered about metabolic typing or endocrine dominance, where some people do way better on high protein or high fat rather than high carb. And so ketogenic, means that you will get into ketosis by eating fats, and you will be running your body on fats for energy instead of carbohydrates for energy. And carbs for energy is quick, easy, and some of us do better on it. If we are adapted to living as farmers, then we have a greater ability to eat foods that have carbs in it. And the blood types A and B, or AB, are more likely to cope with carbs better than the blood type O's. That's for fact, already documented. Anyway, so ketogenic diet. If you are losing your mind, if you're losing your ability to process, that's the cognition, or ability to recall, that's the memory, both of which will be caused by not enough ketones in your brain. And the way you get ketones is if you eat fat, not carb. So your bowl of salad, have a shot of olive oil, slab of fish or chicken on it, and not a pile of bread. That's the ketogenic idea. Now the intermittent thing is essentially force the body into some stress. Stress is good. Voluntary stress is desired. So you would want to compress your eating window into 6 hours rather than the whole day. So you will skip a breakfast or skip a dinner And so attach that 8 hours of sleep and additional 8 hours to that. So you will have a 16-hour window of not eating, 8-hour window of eating. So that's the intermittent. And that works really well for people who are either pituitary dominant or adrenal dominant. They will be healthier that way. The thyroid types are less resilient. They should probably eat 3 meals. You and I are not great at intermittent fasting.
Right. Yeah. Yes, that is very true. Like I'll have a breakfast, I'll have a lunch, and I'll say, okay, that's it for the day. And at 8 at night, I am rummaging through the cupboards. You cannot stop me.
Yeah, it's not it for the day.
So let's go to the next level of this intermittent fasting. What if you did a 1-day fast, 2-day, 3-day fast? How would that help?
Okay, so there's the word autophagy, which is a Greek for self-digesting. And what you want to accomplish is allow the body to have a rest from metabolic duties. When there's no food coming in, there's no metabolic work, and the body can just dump stuff and digest it away. So 1 day a week of not eating at all, 24 hours, skipping it, was the original biblical Old Testament method. Then they modified it and said, just eat fish on Friday. But they really meant 24-hour break in eating. I'm not particularly good at it.
No.
I can handle a 16-hour break, but I don't do terribly well in going 24. And then there's the longer fasting, like a 3-day water fast. And then there's the 10-day master fast, which master cleanse, they call it. They're great. I've never done one.
I know a fellow, he says, I'm going to do a 3-day fast. And then at the end of the 3 days, he says, I feel great. So I'm going to do a 10-day fast. And then I'm really good. I'm going to go 15 days. And that's kind of how he went. It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, what I hear from people who've done it, who tell me about it, is that once your body gets over the initial shock of not eating, things actually quiet down and it starts digesting the reserves. There are reserves, especially if you have some fat on your body, it will start consuming it. Yeah, you still want to be drinking water. Yeah, after 30 days, if you go to full 40, which is the big fast, after 30 days, you start having visions, you start talking to God. It's transformative. I know about it. I've just never done it.
All right, Martin, let's talk about the latest person to be in charge of health from the United States, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's been a couple months now. What do you think of the performance that he's done?
He's got an ugly big job to deal with because he needs to transform multiple organizations from thinking one way to thinking another way. He needs to get the philosophy changed. And so I'm watching the teams that he's assembling, and I'm watching the transformations, and it's really good. There are some really good people around him. And what I'm hoping to see is that especially the NIH and CDC will start coming back with real science. He calls it the gold standard science, which will be reproducible science. When you make a test and you publish it and somebody does the same test and the results are the same, that's known as the gold standard. Anyway, they're working on the studies for things that the drug companies never wanted to hear about. My wish and my hope is that he will somehow find a way to ban advertising of pharmaceutical products in mass media. When the newspapers, TV channels, and internet will no longer be allowed to advertise pharmaceutical drugs, prescription drugs, when it will be only up to the doctor to talk about it.
That's a major
When
thing.
that takes place,
people go into their doctors
well,
and
right
they
now,
say,
Scott,
oh
the
dear.
timing is just, there's a 3-second delay, and you think that I'm not talking, but I am. I think you're not talking, and you are. Anyway, I want to say this. The newspapers are not writing about anything that would go against the interest of their biggest advertising source, which is the pharmaceutical companies. So the public is intentionally miseducated by withholding the information that belongs. Oh, look at that. Kevin, whoa.
I fasted
Yeah.
through 2 weeks when I was in my 20s, although I probably will not do it now. It's nice to know that I got through it okay. I know I do not have to eat every day. And George is like, good for you. Well done, Kevin.
Yeah, no kidding. Well done. Well, some people handle it better than others. I have been testing myself to see how far I can go. So these days, I'm perfectly okay not eating until about 2 p.m. I'm skipping the breakfast. But by 3 o'clock, I'm losing my marbles. And if I, like yesterday, for example, I did not eat at all. I didn't have my smoothie, and then I went straight for dinner, which was, I had a salad and a piece of chicken with it. And by the time I was at 5 o'clock, I was no longer willing to exercise, which I normally do. So I was just running low on energy to the point where I was unwilling. I was just not willing to convince myself that I can actually do the exercise routine that I usually do. Oh, and the other thing that I've been pushing my body with is cold showers. That's an interesting one. Again, it's a bit of adversity goes a long way. When you first turn it on, it's like, whoa.
It's hard. I've been in a few places where I've had to have cold showers because there was no hot water. And boy, oh boy, it was tough.
Yep. So I'm now doing it voluntarily. It's an interesting process.
Right. Yeah. When you have the choice, boy, it's really hard not to turn the hot water on.
Yeah. Right. I heard Gary Brecka in one of his seminars say, aging is the relentless pursuit of comfort. And I thought, wow, this is so clever.
Yeah. Yeah. We want to be, and true health comes from discomfort, right? Like it's easy to eat the donuts, easy to eat the chocolate cake and the ice cream. Not so easy to eat vegetables and other stuff that hasn't been processed and designed to make all those little things in our tongues bang off.
Yeah, all that food prep. Yeah. I know. I get lazy and don't make carrot juice because it takes an hour to do the food prep and especially the breakdown. The whole thing is such a mess. But I'm learning to convince myself that I need to do the right thing.
And I think it's a matter of deciding, like, do you want to watch an hour of Netflix or do you want to eat healthier, right? Like, there's always a trade-off, and the trade-off is something comfortable, right? It's like, I'm not cooking my meals because I'm listening to music with my eyes closed on a hammock, or I'm not cooking my meals because I'm watching a sports show. It's not, I'm not cooking. It is never, I'm not cooking my meals because I have too much work I have to do, or I'm digging a ditch in the backyard so that I don't get a flood, or, there's nothing that's important. It's all comfort-oriented things.
Yeah, agree. All right, what's the next thing in your lineup?
Well,
are we going to just say, are we going to say, okay, I think Robert Kennedy is challenged with a gigantic job, and as much as I can tell about it, he's having some successes, and it's a huge strategic job. I heard some people say, "Hey, Robert, how come you caved and didn't condemn those vaccines or that you're fighting? This is a tiny little battle, just let it go."
Yeah, he's. I agree. Like he has a huge job ahead of him, and I think he has mapped out the steps he needs to take to make that happen. Like George says, like trying to turn a ship in the ocean, and he has
Yeah,
to.
big
If he
one.
goes too far too fast, there's a significant number of people that still believe the mainstream media, still believe the doctors and Fauci and those people, and he
Yeah.
has to shift enough of them over, and that's where like the real science comes in, and we're starting to see lots of articles about excess deaths, about things not being right, about autism, and all of those things. And I think that I give him a couple of years. I think he has 2 years. I think when we have the midterm elections, if he hasn't done it, there's a backlash against him. I don't know that they'll be able to push it through. So I'm really hoping that, he goes and they have these open meetings, and President Trump asks him a question, and he says, "We're going to have scientific evidence about what causes autism by September." Well, if that happens, boy, oh boy, that's the beginning of the decline of Big Pharma, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. George says we want science, not scientism, which is what we have right now. And unfortunately, converting people is not easy.
Oh, yeah.
So our last thing before we go, Martin, is
No, because it's a really
is the 48 medication problem in elder. The average assisted living resident is on 48 medicines. So when they've
you cannot possibly be right.
When they've done nutrition-based
You cannot
recovery,
possibly be right about it.
they reduced meds by 47% by changing the food. Overprescription is treating side effects of previous meds, not root causes. So that's the future if you go down the path, right?
I remember a T-shirt which says, "I've taken the blood, what's it called? I've taken the blood thinner medication, which was taken because of a side effect from the high blood pressure medication that I took, because it was taken because of my vitamin deficiency that my doctor never told me about." Right? It starts as a nutritional deficiency that is not discovered, that's covered over by a drug that leads to a destruction of a particular tissue that is followed by a surgical intervention that is followed by death. Yeah.
Yep. So that is the problem. I have a friend who's 10 years older than me, and I thought, you know what? If I watch him, I can see what's probably going to happen to me. And 10 years after his divorce, I got divorced. 10 years after this, he happened to him, something else happened to him, it happened to me. And what I made sure to do was eat better than he ate and exercise better than he exercised. He's on, I don't know how, like it's just this pile of medicine, and blood thinners is one of them. And and I'm on none. So it's just like you know where the road leads, and you can decide if you want to take that one or you want to take the road to health. And we recommend the road to health. So Martin, we got 2 minutes left. Our call to action today is rethink your plate, and you might change your future. Next week, we're going to be talking about why your health isn't just physical, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what we're going to be dealing with in May. And so, Martin, last?
If I were to do any one thing, I would say you make Fulvic acid in your diet is going to improve the terrain in your gut so that the absorption of nutrients is enhanced because the microbes are feeling better. I mean, it could be one of those simple things like add humic acid.
There you go. Doesn't have to be difficult, but you have to educate yourself. You have to take the action. Listen to our shows, share them, like them, subscribe, and we'll see you next week, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Hey.